Hi everyone, welcome to The Bottom Line, a new show on YBA that brings young reporters together with CEOs from the greater Boston area. I'm Ellie Berger, I'm from Dover, Massachusetts, and I'm in 7th grade. Joining me today is Lane Sutton. Lane is from Framingham and he's 14 years old. He's also a social media consultant and he's worked with many companies. Hi Lane.
Hi Ellie, I'm really looking forward to talking to more CEOs, not only about their social media strategy, but also about the bottom line, because that's what we talk about in business. And joining us in studio today is Mr. Mark Shirman, CEO of GlassHouse Technologies. Nice to meet you, Mr. Shirman.
Nice to meet you.
So could you tell me a bit about your career and how you got started?
Sure. So I went to college here in Massachusetts at Brandeis University. After that, going there, I went to graduate school down in Washington, D.C. at American University, and I got my MBA. Out of school, I went to Arthur Andersen, which was a large worldwide consulting company. And they sort of said to me, you can do a little bit of computer work, but you could avoid it if you want to. I didn't know anything about computers, but it seemed like a pretty good idea at the time, and I could graduate in May and start my job whenever I wanted in the summer. So I went cross-country with my best friend, had all kinds of adventures, came back, cut off my hair, and went to work. So I worked for Arthur Andersen in Washington, D.C. for a couple of years, and then came back up here to Boston area because I really wanted to get into the music business. And actually one thing led to another, and I started my first company, which was called Innovative Information Systems, that was out of Norwood, Mass. I did that for about 10 years. We were purchased. Then I was at a couple of other high-tech services companies along the way. And then I started GlassHouse Technologies in 2001.
Wow.
Well, that sounds really interesting. You've definitely done a lot, obviously. So Ernst & Young Award, what does that mean to you? What is it?
So the Ernst & Young CEO of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year award, they give out every year. It's a fairly prestigious award. They do them regionally, and then they do nationals, where you go to a national convention. This year it was in Palm Beach, and we went out there, and Jay Leno is the master of ceremonies, and there's all kinds of hoopla, and it's very exciting. I had been nominated several times before and had not won, and was pretty much resigned to the fact that I wasn't going to win. And I was very surprised when I won this year. I got called up and won, and it was very exciting. And it's nice to be recognized for the work that the company has done, the team that works with me has done, as well as obviously getting the award for myself and then going to the national award. So it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now it certainly sounds it. Now, GlassHouse Technologies does servers and cloud computing and data storage. So do you think cloud computing and all of that is the future of the way we will do computing?
So the best way for me to answer that is to first define cloud computing.
That's what I was going to ask. I have no idea.
Because people, there's a lot, it's a big marketing hype around it, so people are not always sure exactly what that means. So to get services from the cloud is sort of like the same as when you pick up your phone and you expect a dial tone. You don't know what's going on behind it. You pay for the usage that you have, whether it's long distance or local calls or in minutes, or if it's a mobile phone, it's texting. And then you don't care what's going on behind. You basically buy based on what you need. Well, in the past, the way information technology worked is people would buy computers, buy servers, build out huge data centers, and if they were large companies, many data centers, and put all their stuff in there. So they would constantly be buying all this equipment, very, very expensive to own, very, very expensive to operate, and they never really knew if they always needed it. And in fact, the reality is about 90% of it sat idle most of the time. So not a very efficient model. What cloud computing has done is allow people to get the resources they need, whether it's computing or storage or applications, and get them just when they need them and just to use what they need and not to pay for any more. So it's a very efficient way for people to consume IT, for companies, for small businesses, and even for large businesses that go ahead and do that. It will absolutely revolutionize the high-tech industry, and it's just begun.
So who who do you provide to? What types of people, who needs your services?
So our customers are primarily what we call the enterprise, so larger companies. So large financial institutions, people on Wall Street, people here like Fidelity and Citizens Bank are customers of ours. We work with companies around the world. We actually work with the Pentagon. Any place where there's a lot of data and a lot of computers in the data center, those tend to be good customers for us.
Wow. Now, I've also heard you have plans to go public. Can you tell me a bit about the process and what will happen with that and how it'll affect GlassHouse Technologies?
The process is very complex now, particularly since probably 2000. So when the internet bubble burst and when there was a big scandal around Enron, there became a tremendous amount of scrutiny around the public markets and companies going public and IPOs. And so a whole lot of restrictions and compliance and guidelines was put in. So I spent, unfortunately, a lot of my time with lawyers and accountants and bankers putting together the whole process of going public. So the way it works is when you decide you want to go public, you're essentially selling a part of your company to the public. Primarily that's sold to not individuals, but to large companies that then sell it to individuals. So you sell to Fidelity or you sell to Putnam Investments. And those are people who buy a portion of your stock. The money comes to the company. And then you go on a NASDAQ exchange or a New York Stock Exchange, and that's kind of how it runs. For a company like me, what will happen is we'll plan when the time is right, which is a combination of the public markets being friendly. So the current situation in Japan and the Middle East makes a fairly unfriendly market. That your numbers are in line and all the legal pieces are done. Then you go out in what you call a road show. So for 2 weeks you go out and visit with people like the Fidelities and Putnams and other large companies and convince them that your stock is a good stock to buy and that you're a quality company. At the end of that 2 weeks, the underwriters or the bankers, so people you know like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley, will say, okay, we think there's this kind of demand for your stock. And they'll buy your stock, say at $10 a share. They'll turn around and sell it to everybody for $11 a share or $10.50 a share, right? The company gets $10 a share, so it's very important to price it correctly so the company's not leaving money on the table. And then a certain amount of your company will then be owned by the public. That's how the IPO works.
So on the roadshow, are there any concerns you have about trying to get your stocks out there and like letting people know about your company? Are you have any?
It's a very regimented and controlled process. Well, I'll do something like 10 to 12 meetings a day, plus then breakfast meetings and lunch meetings. By the way, I'll be giving the same presentation over and over again. So if you guys have seen Groundhog Day, that will be my life. It will be that way, something on the order of 1 to 2 cities a day, okay? And you end up going, we'll be doing 9 days in the U.S. and probably 3 days in Europe to support it. So am I worried? I believe in my business. I believe in my company. Not everybody will say yes. Being an entrepreneur basically means that most people say no and you don't take it personally.
Yeah, so how do you find time to spend with your family during that? Because family time is, really important.
It's a good question. So during the road show, during that very short period of time, there's not much time for your family. Mm-hmm. Okay. In my life and the way I work and I do travel and I have offices around, I really try to make sure that I separate a lot of time so that I have family time. Now, I have grown kids, so they're away from home. I do have a new son who's only 2, so I'm around a lot for him. My wife is around. So we spend a lot of time together. Occasionally I mix work and pleasure, so they'll come with me on business trips or we'll do something like that. After this many years of working, you learn to know how to separate work from family.
Now, you went on a trip with Governor Deval Patrick. Can you tell me about why you went on that? And it was to Israel and the UK, right?
Right. So he went on a trade mission to Israel and UK, primarily to promote the state of Massachusetts, to promote cooperation between the countries and Massachusetts, basically to get jobs, to try to bring jobs here to Massachusetts. I got asked for two reasons. The first is that I'm involved with a group of business leaders here in the Massachusetts area that work with the governor to promote pro-business but on a progressive or liberal type of political agenda. So I'm a little involved with that. The other thing is I have a fairly large operation in Israel. So we have 200 people who work in Israel. So I represent kind of the example of cooperation already taking place between Massachusetts and Israel, and we're really building on that. I spent 2 days with the governor. We met with a variety of business leaders and government leaders there, ambassadors. It was pretty exciting. Bob Kraft from the Patriots was on the group. There were a lot of other significant people on the group. I then left the group, the trade mission, and spent a couple of days with my own team, visiting my customers and spending time with my folks. I did not go to the UK. My COO went to the UK with the governor, who happens to live here in Massachusetts, but he's British. So he went with the governor to the UK and did it that way. Very, very interesting. I made good contacts within the state because of the group of people we were traveling with, as well as learned a lot about the value of the cooperation between Massachusetts and Israel. As my COO learned a lot about the UK and Massachusetts.
Well, it sounds like you have had many things done on that trip, but what do you think were the major benefits of it?
It's hard to tell on a short-term trip that you're going to walk away from deals for the Massachusetts. What you do is you build relationships that allow you to foster great cooperation. And so some of those were done contractually. They were called MOUs, which is memorandums of understanding, where there's cooperations between various groups. For us, the greatest value, frankly, was press. So it was great for my team there to know that I was there with a fairly high-level contingent, and so it was high-level press for that organization over there as well as for the organization here. For me personally, it's an opportunity for me to step outside pure business shoes and see how social policy is made, because that's something I don't have a lot of time with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing trip.
It was fun.
So in your free time, I hear you're a rock musician. Can you tell me about why you're interested in that and what kind of songs you play?
So I started playing guitar when I was 8. So when everybody else took piano lessons, I took guitar lessons. I stayed with it for about 4 years, and then I quit for a few years and went back to it in high school. So I played a lot of sports in high school, but I also saw that that people I just love music, and people in bands got girls. So the combination of loving music and getting girls was a pretty good combination in high school. So I played in bands in high school, then I played in bands all through college. So for me, it's a passion. I probably have 3,000 CDs. I don't know how much downloaded music I have. I still listen to my records. So music for me is my passion across the board. I got a group of guys that I had been playing together loosely over the last few years together for my 50th birthday 3 years ago. We got the band back together. We played. We had so much fun. A lot of people came. So now we play periodically. We practice in my basement about once a week. We play out whenever we want. Mostly we raise money for Pan Mass Challenge. So it goes to all the money goes to Dana-Farber. And it's great fun.
That's great.
I would have never expected you've had any extra time in any of your days to spend with music, but if you do have extra time, do you use it and for charity purposes? Are you charitable?
So I sit on a couple of boards for community service. One is a company or organization out in the Worcester area called Baby's Breath, where they work with essentially babies that are in distress or in distressed homes and provide a very safe place for them to be. So I work with them periodically. I've done some work with the Boston Public Library. So I do a little bit here and there where I can. I also sit on some boards for some of my friends and help them out. So yeah, you would say I'm pretty busy, but I like it that way.
Okay, well, right now we're going to go to break. Thank you. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Julia from YBA. For the past few years, I've been coming to the YBA training studios once a week or so. I'm so excited that now I'll be able to practice my broadcast skills with YBA Online. The new course has so much more than what we have learned at the studio. You can practice your delivery by recording a video with a simple click. You can even use a teleprompter to practice reading off that. I learned about the history of the industry and some of the greatest names in the business. You know what though? It was really a lot of fun. And there are some really funny videos, like the one of Jimmy Young doing his crazy warm-up exercises.
The next thing we want you to do is actually stretch the facial muscles in your face, which is a good place for facial muscles.
Or the one from Friends, and of course, all those crazy tongue twisters.
Betty Botter bought a bit of butter
The butter Betty Botter bought was a bit bitter,
and made her batter bitter.
but a bit of better butter bought batter better.
So Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter, making Betty Botter's bitter batter better.
Best of all, though, I can practice my writing and reading from home on my schedule, and I can get coaching from one of the many professional broadcasters on staff. YBA Online allows me to learn by doing the job of a broadcaster every day if I want to. And you will have all the tools. For now, I'm Julia reporting about YBA Online.
And we are back. Thank you very much. So what are your company values? What are some morals you live by?
Well, morals I live by are a little bit different than our maybe a little bit different than our company values. So morals I live by are basically honesty and integrity. That's what I try to do. I think there are many companies who publish their company values. They say, these are the things we do, and they put them up on a sign, or they give you a t-shirt, or they give them on a Frisbee. I would prefer that you reinforce that in everything that you do in your business without calling them out specifically. So yes, honesty, integrity. Also, I believe in empowerment. I mostly believe in two things. One is collaboration, and so that people can work efficiently, and the only things that matter are the customers and people who serve the customers. So management team should support all the people that work for them that touch the customers. That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
What was the process of funding and starting your company, and how did you get the funding?
That's a great question, Lane. So the last business I was with, we went public. It was in 2000, so it was as the bubble was bursting, so the financial markets were very bad. But we did manage to go public, and then we were purchased by a very large French company. So I spent a couple of months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. As I explained to you before, it's a very time-consuming process. So I stayed home. I did a lot of planting in the garden. I literally painted my garage floor, which was very Zen-like. And then try to sort of figure out what I wanted to do. I got the idea for GlassHouse. I went out to raise money in the spring of 2001. So, and I went out to venture capitalists. So most venture capitalists were not funding new companies then because of all that was going on in the market. But the more people who said no, the more I was inspired. And the more data I gathered, and so my partner and I just kept on knocking on doors until we were successful with our first round of financing, which was May of 2001. By the time we were done with the lawyers and everything, we launched the business in August. So we were literally working on our company presentation when 9/11 hit. So, which also obviously sent the economy into a bit of a scramble as well. So the company's actually gone through several fairly tough economic cycles, and we've been able to persevere through them all. So in terms of financing, we've continued to raise money from the venture capital community inside Massachusetts.
So what are your goals going forward, and not just your goals for yourself, your company, but your vision of what you want to be?
Well, what I want to be as a person is I just want to be a great dad, okay, and a great husband. So that's all I really care about, and brother and son, and because people who know me know that family matters the most. So take that aside. since we're talking on the bottom line,
Yeah.
we'll talk a little bit about business. So my goal is to build a business where people have fun and they add value to our customers, and that we are as big and as successful as we can be. That's all I care about. I don't have a plan for world domination. I don't have a plan for how many offices we have. I don't have a plan for how much money I need to make. I don't have any of that. I have a plan to build a business that matters. And if you do that, all the rest of the stuff will happen if it's important to you.
Now, some of your clients are Fortune 500 companies. Can you tell me about them and who some of them are?
So we do business with about half of the Fortune 500. Well, I guess we do half of the Fortune 100. So, and we have, literally hundreds, if not probably close to 1,000 customers of various shapes and sizes worldwide. So they're your largest oil and gas companies like ExxonMobil and British Petroleum, to large telecommunications company like British Telecom, Visa, Bank Leumi in Israel is a large customer of ours, Credit Suisse. We've done work with Morgan Stanley. So some of the largest companies in the world, some a whole lot of business with and some just a little bit.
So how do you motivate your workers to get the best job done possible?
So the best thing you can do with when you have a workforce is to treat them well, reward them, and to share successes with them. What most of the people who work with me want is they want to like their job, they want to feel valued, they obviously want to be paid fairly, but they want to feel valued and have fun. If they do that, they'll stay. And we've been very, very lucky. So less than 5% of our staff leaves any given year, which is a very small number in a services business. And it's been that way for years. Even people who leave sometimes come back. One of the problems in my business, though, is travel. So a lot of people have to travel. That can be very tiring to some people, understandably so. So some people may change careers or something like that.
So let's get to the bottom line and see how can others achieve the success that you've reached so far?
Well, that's a great question, but I have no idea. So, the things that have been instilled in me from a very early age, I'm a first-generation American, is you work hard, and you continue to work hard, and you value family, and you work hard, and you can do those things, and if you do those things, you can achieve most anything, depending on what it is you want to do. Sometimes there's going to be roadblocks, and actually most times there's going to be roadblocks. And you try to pick yourself up and you go to the next level. So there was an old expression when the cowboys used to cross the river. They would cross with all their horses, and usually one horse, one pony, would figure out the best way across, and all the other horses would follow it. And they used to say, follow the pony. So you find the pony. So when one door is shut, you find the pony, you get to the next level. So people talk about entrepreneurs as being risk takers. That may or may not be true. I think what entrepreneurs are is resilient, because there's more no's than yeses in anybody's day.
Yeah, definitely. And that is the bottom line. Well, thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful advice right there. Thank you so much, Mr. Shirman, for joining us.
And tune in next time. And for my co-host, Ellie Berger. And thank you for being here, Mark Shirman. And I'm Lane Sutton. Thanks for watching. And now we're going to play some music from your band. And keep tuning in to watch that.
I wanted the outside.